and welcome back to our March sampler here at Close to Home in Southington. Please bring in your February's completed block beginning Friday, March 7th through the end of March, March 31st, to receive your March kit free. Okay. Once again, we are offering new selections of many bolts as 50% finish the bolts, 50% off finish the bolts. Also, our March Madness continues with additional makes and models of floor and trade-in machines. There is something for everyone. So don't wait, call our store and check out the updated lists as we sell them. We put more on the list, so there's always changing. Check your email for the most current listing, okay, of used machines. Okay, so that's it for announcements. I just wanted to show you what our tool is for March Intermediates block. It's going to be the small flying geese ruler. Looks just like this. It's 3 by 6 or 1.5 by 3. Behind this little wrapper here is a 1.5 by 3. We're literally going to be using both of these in our March block. So let's go over to the block and go over to the cutting, and we'll go through that before we get to the flying geese. I have used this ruler in the past, so this might be a little refresher for a lot of you. So the center finished 6-inch block has 4 of our flying geese. These are 1.5 by 3 finished. A 3-inch finished center, and 1.5 inch corners. The outside flying geese are 3-inch by 6-inch with a 3-inch finished corner. Pretty simple there. And I'm going to show you ways to turn this that you can kind of make it your own or play around with the blocks a little bit to see what you like. All right, so the cutting instructions, very simple. The white is a 7.5, and then we're going to cut to 4 inches. So up here and on the sides, I have the approximate size of the kit fabric that you're getting, so you can kind of orientate your kit fabric to get the right cuts from it. Make sure you do put your Mary Ellen's Best Press on your kit fabrics before you cut any of these, okay? The purple, a 6-inch and 2 4-inch. Simple buttons, 9-inch. The blue is a 4.5, and then we're going to get 4 2-inch squares. And of course our floral center finishing at 3 would be cut 3.5. Okay, pretty simple. The first thing we're going to go over is the half square triangles. That is made up of the blue and the purple. So the first thing I did was I took my 4-inch white, 4-inch purple, put them right sides together, drew a diagonal line on the back side of my white, sewed a 1/4 inch from each side. Then I cut it straight up the line that I marked, and I pressed it toward the purple. You're not done because these are a little oversized, so let me clarify that these should be trimmed down to 3.5. So the best way to do that is to put a ruler on top of our square so that the diagonal line that comes down to it goes right down the center of our seam line, and the 3.5 and the 3.5 meet right up into the corner. So you'll notice that these are oversized, and we do need to trim these down. But if you get that diagonal right in the corner, you should have a really nice half square triangle. Okay, and if you'd like, you can go ahead and just snip off these little dog ears. So you should have 4 of these, and then we'll move on to the flying geese. The rest is pretty easy. Okay, so the flying geese, again, it might be refresher to a lot of you, but there's some new people this year, so I want to go over them. The 2 squares that we're going to use, we have the 9 and we have the 7.5. And then on this one we have the 6 and the 4.5. Now the larger squares on these flying geese are the wings, and the smaller squares are going to be the bodies. So just keep that in mind when you go to make more flying geese. What I like to do is to just put the cutting on the actual rulers. It makes it very easy to remember what size squares to make. Okay, and you'll notice that mine has green and red lines in it. The new ones have black lines. It doesn't matter, all the lines are the same. They just updated it. Okay. So the first thing I did was I centered my white 7.5, drew a line diagonally through all the corners, and just made sure that this was nice and square inside the button fabric. I then went ahead and stitched on either side of the line. Okay, so this is a 1/4 inch up one side and down. Now remember, you don't have to go all the way off the button fabric. You can stop when you get off the white. You don't have to keep going. All right, next thing we're going to do is cut it on the line. So I'm going to put my ruler back on. And this one's just I like the 12.5 because I was able to get my large squares, but it doesn't quite diagonally reach. So I'm just going to shimmy it along a little bit. Okay, so we should have 2 of these. Now, you should also remember that when we're making flying geese, we're going to make 4 flying geese out of just 2 squares. So that's a really easy way to make these. Now that I've cut them in half, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press toward the larger square. So you can see I have more button than I do white. So this is going to get pressed toward the button, and I'm going to have these little flying tips coming off the ends. So let's go ahead and do that to both of them, and I'll show you how to put those together. And all this is exactly the same for the other 2. When you're making the small one, the only difference is the size of the squares you start with and where you trim on the small flying geese ruler. And it is by Eleanor Burns. It's an Eleanor Burns flying geese ruler. She also makes a large, so make sure you do not use the large. The large is 4x8 and 2x4. That is not the size we need. All right, whoops. Okay, so I have these 2 squares again. I have more button than I do white, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my 2 squares together with opposite corners touching. So if I have a large button here, I'm going to put the white. And if I have the white on this side, I'm going to put the button triangle. And I'm matching up as even as I can the square that goes around it. This is kind of imaginary in these corners, but this is going to go around like that. These seams will not touch. Don't try to butt them up against each other. Just place the squares right on top of each other. The next thing we're going to do is sew a perpendicular line from the seams corner to corner. So let's go do that, and we're going to sew on each side of the line. Almost cut, but I have to sew first. And the important thing is to really keep this from your seams from flipping over. So when I get to this back one, I don't want it to flip on me. I want to keep it nice in the direction of the buttons. All right, so let's sew this real quick. We'll go up one side, down the other. And this time we can start off the fabric. Now, if they're not exactly right on top of each other, don't worry, because the nice thing about this is we can trim. We will be trimming our flying geese. Flip this around, and we're going to do a 1/4 inch on this side of the line I drew. I'm holding this kind of nice and flat so I don't flip any of my seams. And now we're going to trim the lines, or cut right on that line. Okay, so let me get out my ruler again. And I'm going to just cut it corner to corner. Okay. So what you should have are 2 of these units that look just like this. The important thing is that we press our body of our geese toward the wings, okay, which is our buttons in this one. So if I press this one this way and this one this way, I'm going to have a little bit of a twist right there. So get out a small pair of scissors, and we're just going to cut into that seam allowance to split that so that I can lay that flat to press it. Okay, so let's go press one more time. Again, keeping the white or the body of the geese pressed toward the buttons. All right, and now all we have to do is trim. So this one is 2 flying geese, and let's go trim. All right, so we're going to take our flying geese ruler, place it, because I'm doing the 3x6, I'm taking the 3x6 inch finished geese lines, and I'm placing them right in these seam lines. So I'm going to get as close as I can to this corner, to the point, and to that corner. Hold on to it. First thing I like to do is just kind of separate it from this one. And then I trim this side, and I trim this side. But I have my rotating mat, which is a wonderful, wonderful tool. So I did 3 sides, and I'm going to flip it around, place it back on here, and again trim it. Be careful it doesn't move on you. You're going to have to kind of hold it down a little bit. And I anchor my pinky on the side so that it doesn't move on me. All right, so there's one, and you're just going to keep doing that again and again. Clip your seam, press it, and trim it. Okay, so that's the same idea as if you were using this one, which is the it's the 6 and the 4.5, and these are going to make the finish 1.5 by 3. So what I've done is I've kind of made a couple, and we can turn them around a little bit. I made another center. This one I had the flying geese flying outwards, but I think what I'm going to do is turn them so they make a square and a square. Again, you can kind of play with these however you'd like. And my purple corners are pointing out. Let's see what it looks like with them pointing in. So maybe you want to make your block like this. I'll leave it up to you. It is the Eleanor Burns Small Flying Geese Ruler, and I do always recommend the 12.5 or something, even 18 inches, so that you can get that line going from corner to corner. I hope you enjoyed today's block, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.